Have you ever had this happen when you're reading the Bible and you're reading verses that you've read many, many times, and suddenly your eyes just stop on a verse and it's as if you've never seen it before? It's like you're reading it for the very first time in your life, and the message of the verse just jumps off the page at you, and you kind of scratch your head and wonder how it is that you've never seen it before. I love it when that happens, actually. I've had that experience a few times. As a matter of fact, I had it this morning when I was reading through our Ignite the Truth assignment for this week. I was reading in Deuteronomy chapter 4, and there we find Moses talking to the Israelites. He's talking about the commandments, the statutes, the judgments that God gave to him to give to them. And in chapter 4, verse 6, he says, "Therefore, be careful to observe them." Now, in this instance, the word observe in the Hebrew means to do. It means to accomplish, to make it happen. And of course, by them, he's referring to the commandments. Therefore, be careful to do these commandments and statutes and judgments. For this is, the doing is, your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the peoples who will hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. That is awesome. That is awesome because what it's saying is to the Israelites, the people, perhaps the people in the camp or the nations around, to us, people in our community or people outside of our community who have heard, they've heard of this God, they've heard of his teachings, they've heard of the judgments, they've heard of the wisdom, they've heard of this supernatural understanding. But how do they know? How do they know if there really is wisdom in any of this? How do they know if this God really is who everyone says he is? And what God is telling us is the wisdom that they are seeking, the supernatural understanding that they are seeking, will be seen in our doing as we obediently obey his commandments, as we walk out his instruction for our lives. The wisdom, the supernatural understanding will be there, and they will be able to recognize our God, the God of the universe. Then he goes on to say, for what great nation is there that has God so near to it as the Lord our God is to us, for whatever reason we may call upon him? And what great nation is there that has such statutes and righteous judgments as are in all this law or Torah, which I set before you this day? Moses is asking the question, who has what we have? What nation has the blessing that we have, that God has given us? And how can we communicate to them how amazing this God is? How can we make them understand that they want what we've got? And the answer is simple. It's only in the seeing. As they look and see us walk in obedience, faithful obedience to God's commands, again, live out our lives, walking out our faith, they will see him. And they will say, surely this is a people whose God is the Lord. I think that's amazing, awesome. But it made me think of the book of James, chapter 2, verse 14. What does it profit, my brethren, if someone says he has faith, but he does not have works? Now, by works, James isn't just talking about doing nice stuff. His whole book is about obeying God's commandments. So that's what he's talking about here. Can faith save him? And he gives an example. If a brother or sister is naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you says to them, depart in peace, and be warmed and filled, but you don't give them the things which are needed for the body, what does it profit? What good is it? What are your lofty words worth if they are not accompanied by the righteous action, fulfilling God's commands to care for the needy? And so he goes on, thus also, faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. dead. And that word in the Greek means dead. It means lifeless. It comes from the root which means corpse. It means without value. But someone will say, you have faith and I have works. So James challenges them. He says, okay, you show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. By my works. He's saying exactly the same thing that Moses said. And if we go to John chapter 14, we find Yeshua talking. And he says 4 very important words. If you love me, if you love me, you will keep or do my commandments. If you love me, you will do my commandments. And he could have kept right on talking and said, and with that doing is your wisdom. With that doing is your supernatural understanding. That doing is what will give life to your faith. And then, if we go to Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6, the writer says, without faith, it is impossible to please God. Impossible. It can't be done. And what kind of faith would please God? That dead, lifeless kind? No, I don't think so. I think God is pleased by life-filled faith. And so Moses has told us, James has told us, Yeshua has told us how to have that life-filled faith. As we live lives of obedience to God's commandments, carefully walking in the direction that he has given us for our lives, we find that wisdom, we find that supernatural understanding, and it gives life to our faith, vibrant life, the kind of faith that brings great pleasure to the heart of our God, the God of the universe.